In this video, I want to propose a different ending for A Queen of Nothing, which is the third book in the Folk of the Air series. This is an alternative ending that would ultimately be more satisfying compared to the fact that the series has, for the other two books, been a very cutthroat court intrigue story, and the third book is more of a thrilling, adventurous, fairy tale-like story, especially with the snake ending. And while I liked the snake ending, ultimately, as I came further and further away from my first read-through, I became more and more dissatisfied. There's a stunning lack of Cardan and Jude and a stunning lack of court intrigue. Just ultimately, a lot of things were unsatisfying with a lot of the characters, and especially because a lot of the characters suddenly became very, very good without actually disturbing that character development. Because some of the changes that I've decided to make for the ending means that a different beginning is necessary. I'm starting with the ending so you can understand those changes. The first change I would make is that instead of Cardan becoming a snake when he breaks the crown, is that he and Maddox and Jude enter into this court intrigue competition for vying for the love of the court and the different fractions of the court. This would set up a much needed last scheme for Jude and Cardan in which they actually work together, because a huge problem in this book is that there is so little Cardan and Jude, and the reason for that is because there's not really any conflict. The only conflict comes from them not talking with each other, and that's the worst kind of conflict when you have a romance going. So instead, at the middle point of the book, where they are finally together at the palace and they have their talk in the garden, that would be the point from which now they're together, and they will work together, and they will along the way see that the more they trust each other, the more they rely on each other and fight at each other's sides, the stronger they become, both as a couple and as these powerful rulers. The third act would instead be this power struggle between the different factions, with Maddox and Jude and Cardan on opposite sides. But then for flavor, you would have Lady Asha, who we're told is a very powerful player, but it's never actually shown that she's a powerful player, so she would have to play a role, and we would need something to do with Nicasia, because she's an important player, because at this point Maddox is holding her mother under a spell that could essentially kill her. So we need Jude especially to get Nicasia over to their side, which would be a very interesting story development for those two. So in this version, Locke would be alive for the ending, and he and Taryn would still be together, and Taryn and Jude would not have truly made up yet. Taryn would be in a difficult position because she cheated Cardan. Cardan is not too pleased with her because of that, but Locke, being the master of revels and master of drama, is making sure that they are essentially safe. But Locke, being the wonderful trickster that he is, would create a lot of drama here at the end, and ultimately his downfall would be his power over the ghost. That would be what essentially led to his death, and I'd still like to see Taryn be the one responsible for his death, that or Cardan, having Cardan finally take a stand toward this terrible friend that he has, and finally saying goodbye to the terrible person he was when he was friends with Valerian and Locke and Nicasia, and ultimately seeing Nicasia become a different part of Cardan's relationships. So this would mean that Taryn and Jude would have one final showdown thing, because in this ending we will especially have Jude versus Maddox, and we will have Maddox being kind of frustrated with this whole court intrigue thing because he just wants a battle, and he will constantly try to convince Jude into going into a duel with him, and they would be struggling over who has control over Oak and Taryn, and ultimately Taryn would choose to stand by Jude's side, and they would be united as sisters, and that would ultimately make Jude stronger. So a lot of the theme would be that as Jude and Taryn get together, they become stronger. As Jude and Cardan get together, they become stronger. So ultimately, the more Jude trusts people and trusts their love for her, the stronger she becomes. This alternative means that Cardan and Jude get to spend a lot more time together, and we get to actually see them grow together instead of them just poof becoming this cute couple. By the end, we see them slowly, painstakingly getting closer to each other. Ultimately, you could have the snake thing happen after this, or you could delete it altogether. Grimson's curses on his stuff is first mentioned in this book, so you don't actually need it. It's only introduced because of the snake thing, so you could take it out. Or you could leave it and you can do the snake thing at the end and do it very shortly, because right now it takes like 30% of the story, and that's just too much, and it was too easy to figure out that she just had to kill the snake and then Cardan would rise. It was too easy and too long, and it ultimately didn't satisfy what the story has been about so far. Two things more that have to be resolved at the ending are Jude's mortality and the situation with Oak. So, is Jude immortal now that she's bound to the land? Isn't she? And how does Cardan react to that? We need a conversation between them where they discuss Jude's mortality, especially because Jude ultimately wanted to become one of the Fae. She wanted to become immortal and strong enough to stand beside them or above them. So ultimately, becoming queen is not just her end goal, it's becoming immortal and becoming a power in her own right. And considering that's why I would actually want a fourth book, because I have a difficult time believing that Jude and Cardan will give up their power to Oak. Especially because if they end up becoming good rulers, why would they? The whole idea of Oak ruling was to make sure that a good ruler would end up on the throne. But if they're good rulers, then why do it? And I don't think that would necessarily be a morally bad thing to do, to insist on staying on the throne when you've become a good ruler. But it's an interesting development considering where it started, and where it started with Jude not really trusting that she would be a good enough person. So that would be the ending. Now let's discuss the beginning, because if Locke is alive, Taryn didn't kill him, so Taryn doesn't show up in the human world to get Jude to go with her to Fairyland. So how does Jude even get to Fairyland then? One thing I thought was going to happen was that she was going to basically convince Grima Mock after their fight, and after she hears that Maddock is attacking, then she would convince Grima Mock that, be my general, we will collect the people who have been shunned from Fairyland, we will create an army, we will go to Cardan, we will offer our swords, and we will be like, give us back our place in Fairyland and we will fight by your side. This would be another way to regain her power, and it would be really fun for her to show up and be like, "Mwahaha, Cardan, you have to accept me back and revoke your exile," and he'll just be like, "Okay," because ultimately I really like the misunderstanding. Of course, after what happened in The Wicked King, I sort of hoped that Cardan was still going to be bad. And I do like that it was his way of sort of punishing her, but I also really like that the reason Jude doesn't come back is because she doesn't believe that he could actually love her, that she really believes he's still that bully and that he's out to get her. So if she collects this force, then she can go to Fairyland and possibly draw on Taryn. She could go to Taryn and be like, "You failed me once, now get me an audience with the king, get my exile revoked just so I can come and make this offer, or get him to the human world so I can make this offer," or something, and then we could have the Taryn Jude thing going. And Taryn, of course, being Taryn, wouldn't really want to apologize, wouldn't really acknowledge how much she hurt Jude, which would be the ultimate character development for Jude in this story, her acknowledging what she did and that she's not actually the good, sweet person that she pretends to be. Alternatively, you could just have Taryn have done something different or have gotten in some kind of other trouble, and then Jude goes to help her. And I would prefer that trouble to be related to Lady Asha, because we need to see her being powerful. We're just told that she's a powerful court player, but we never see anything. She's never really a threat to Jude. So what if she set up Taryn so that Jude would come to Fairyland, and then she's like, "Haha, it's Jude," and then Cardan can intervene. So those are the two ways that Jude can return to Fairyland. Now, what to do about Maddock saving Taryn and accidentally bringing Jude along? Because obviously, if we're not gonna have the Taryn trial thing, why does Maddock even show up and take Jude with him? Well, we could have it just be an assassination ploy. If we're going with the Taryn just got into some other trouble, then it could still be the exact same thing, except Taryn obviously stays in Fairyland. But yeah, otherwise it's just Maddock comes and takes her, and I thought the whole part with her pretending to be Taryn was really cool. So ultimately, I'd keep that as it is, maybe make it a little bit shorter, because There were some things that were kind of dull, but especially the battle between her and Maddox was awesome. I really love the Maddox-Jude relationship. I was sad that there wasn't a better ending for them, more satisfying ending. I was hoping for a duel, like that Maddox would come and he would demand a duel with the crown, and then Jude would step forward and be like, all right, I'm the queen, I'm the crown, so we'll fight each other. And even though that would be kind of cliche and predictable, it would still ultimately be satisfying because the story is about Jude and Maddox relationship. That's ultimately the antagonistic relationship, and it's a very interesting one. So Cardan and the Roach comes to save her as before. Taryn and Vivi come to save her after she's been cut through, and this is maybe when Taryn realizes even though Maddox is strong and he might win, this might not be the right place to be. Jude returns to Fairyland, she tries to save Cardan, and ultimately it's revealed that she's the queen. And when Taryn returns, she will start to be sorry and start to try to make amends to Jude, which I think Locke would really try to fuck up, right? As soon as he realizes now there's a story going again. But as I said, after Jude and Cardan talk in the garden, they have their little almost love confession thing on Cardan's side. They're together, they work together, and we don't have that whole 30% of the book separation between them. Those are my changes. Ultimately, I really enjoyed Queen of Nothing, but not as much as I enjoyed the two other books. They were really special. I thought there were a lot of interesting plot twists. The court intrigue was really well done. But I found the court intrigue in this book to be very underwhelming, which perhaps is also because Holly Black has obviously been hurrying this series along. Because I think the whole thing came out in like a year, which is a very short time, especially when you're working with court intrigue, because it requires a lot of thought to write good court intrigue. And I am in no way saying that I am better than Holly Black at writing it, because this series has been like, holy shit, she's very good at that. I just wish she brought that to the table in the third book, because she didn't. There's not a lot of court intrigue in it. There's not the proper character development. People are kind of stale. They don't really develop a lot. They just kind of become who they were supposed to become. So it feels like there should have been either 4 books, or this third book should have been longer and with some changes in the drama. If you like this video, please ring the bell, like, subscribe, and leave a comment about what you felt of Queen of Nothing, because I know that a lot of people enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I just grew dissatisfied with it the more time went by. So what do you think about the changes that I proposed? I ultimately still feel like I didn't get the Cardan Jude that I wanted to see. And that makes me very sad.